Fix it. I'll be back.
Have you ever imagined that something luxurious, elegant, and flawless on the outside could hide a deadly secret within? That night, at exactly 11 p.m., the cold air wrapped around the outskirts of Denver. A black Bentley rolled slowly through the silence before stopping in front of a forgotten, dimly lit repair shop. From the car stepped a young woman, Giselle Hartman. Her gaze was sharp, her presence commanding, yet something unspoken lingered beneath her calm. She tossed the keys and said only, "Fix it, I'll be back." No explanation, no emotion, just silence, and a feeling that this was far from ordinary. Inside the shop stood Mason Cole, a man shaped by loss, mistakes, and hard choices. To others, he was just a mechanic with oil-stained hands, but beneath that surface, he was once a federal vehicle forensic expert, a man who uncovered truths others wanted buried, until one day the system he served forced him out. Now he lived quietly, not out of defeat, but to protect the one thing that still mattered, his daughter. Azami, a 6-year-old girl, was the light in Mason's darkened world. That night she slept peacefully on the worn-out couch, clutching her small doll, as if it could shield her from a world she didn't yet understand. Her calm breathing contrasted sharply with the weight Mason carried. He looked at her, not just with love, but with fear, because he knew the world could be cruel, and in that silent moment, he made a promise to protect her from everything that had once broken him. When Mason turned back to the Bentley, his instincts awakened. Something wasn't right. The car looked perfect, too perfect. No visible damage, no obvious faults. But that was exactly what troubled him, because in the world he came from, the most dangerous threats were always hidden in the smallest details. Carefully, he began inspecting every inch of the vehicle. Hours passed, and the night grew heavier. Then he found it, a faint scratch on the brake system, almost invisible, almost meaningless. But to Mason, it spoke volumes. It wasn't an accident. It was intent, cold, calculated intent. And in that moment, he realized he had just stepped into something far bigger than a broken car. To most people, that tiny scratch would mean nothing, just wear and tear. But to Mason, it was a warning, too precise, too deliberate. It was designed not to fail immediately, but at the perfect moment, when speed and pressure collided. 1 second of failure, and everything would be over. Mason exhaled slowly. This wasn't damage. This was a message. As he dug deeper, the car revealed more secrets. Every bolt, every wire felt like part of a puzzle waiting to be solved, until he discovered something that shouldn't exist. A hidden compartment, perfectly concealed. His hand paused, not out of fear of what was inside, but of what it would mean. Still, he opened it. Inside was a small USB drive and a plain white envelope, but the words written on it made his heart pound. "If I don't come back, Logan Burke." It wasn't just a message, it was a quiet confession. The owner of this car knew she was in danger. Mason tightened his grip, glancing at Azami sleeping nearby. Her peaceful world suddenly felt fragile. The next day, Mason contacted Logan Burke, a private investigator and his former partner. Their meeting carried no warmth, only tension. As they opened the files, the room seemed to shrink. Documents, transactions, secret communications, each piece revealing a single truth. This was a conspiracy, not just sabotage, but a carefully constructed plan to destroy someone from within. Mason fell silent. The life he left behind was pulling him back. He only wanted peace. He only wanted to raise Azami, but now someone had almost been killed. The truth was in his hands, and danger was closer than he realized. In that moment he understood. Once you uncover the truth, walking away is no longer a choice. Among the data, 2 names emerged like shadows: Adrian Voss and Xavier Holt, trusted insiders, powerful figures, but behind their polished image lay limitless ambition. Mason felt anger rising, not just at the crime, but at the betrayal, because the deepest wounds always come from those closest to you. When Giselle returned, everything changed. This was no longer a simple transaction. Mason stood before her, not as a mechanic, but as someone holding her truth. He explained everything. The sabotage, the danger, the thin line between life and death she was standing on. For the first time, her cold exterior cracked. Beneath it was someone human. The tension shattered when Xavier Holt stormed in, attempting to control the situation. He tried to take Giselle away, to rewrite reality, but Mason stood firm, calm, unshaken. He declared that the evidence was secured and an investigation had begun. For a moment, time froze. Xavier stared, then stepped back, but everyone knew this wasn't over. Days later, the real battle unfolded in a boardroom, not with weapons, but with power, words, and influence. Adrian accused Giselle trying to destroy her reputation. The pressure was overwhelming, but Giselle stood tall, not just as a CEO, but as someone who refused to break. With trembling hands but unwavering resolve, she revealed the truth. Sabotage, illegal funds, the conspiracy. The room shifted instantly. Confidence turned into fear, and when federal agents entered, everything collapsed. Xavier was arrested. Adrian lost everything. Giselle didn't celebrate. She stood still, realizing that some victories come with a heavy price. After the storm, life seemed quiet again. The workshop returned to silence. Giselle offered Mason a chance to return to a greater world, but he chose simplicity. He chose Azami, because sometimes peace is more valuable than power, but peace doesn't last. His past resurfaced with a single name, Shadow Protocol, a terrifying technology capable of remotely controlling vehicles. To others, it sounded impossible. To Mason, it was a nightmare reborn. Strange incidents began to occur, cars losing control, accidents without reason, systems failing without warning. The world didn't see it, but Mason did. This wasn't coincidence. This was design. Something bigger, something watching. And then, Azami changed. The little girl who once laughed freely now woke in fear. She spoke of something unseen, something coming. Mason tried to comfort her, but deep inside, he knew children don't lie about fear. And for the first time, he felt something worse than loss. The fear of failing his own child. That night, the fear became real. Footsteps in the dark, shadows moving beyond the light. They came, not to talk, but to take. Without hesitation, Mason grabbed Azami and ran, leaving everything behind. And as they fled, one truth struck him hard. This was no longer about a car or a company. This was war, a game of power, technology, and survival. And this time, he wouldn't run. He would fight for the only thing that mattered.